The mid-afternoon sun beat down on the private tarmac, creating a shimmering haze of heat that made Nia feel dizzy. She wasn't supposed to be here standing on the burning concrete, 8 months pregnant and wearing a simple cotton dress that had seen better days, but she had to see him. She gripped the envelope in her hand so tight that her knuckles turned the color of ash. This was it. The surprise she had been planning for weeks. A gender reveal, just for the two of them, before Julian flew off to his business conference in Monaco. She adjusted her bag, wiping sweat from her forehead. The security guard at the gate had let her in only because he recognized her from the old days, back when she used to bring Julian lunch in Tupperware containers while he coded in a garage. "Mr. Julian is just boarding now, ma'am," the guard had said, looking at her with pity in his eyes. Nia didn't catch the pity then. She only felt love. She waddled toward the sleek silver Gulfstream jet. Its engines were already whining, a high-pitched scream that cut through the air. And there he was, Julian, the man she had married when they had nothing. He stood at the bottom of the metal stairs, looking like a page out of a luxury magazine in his fitted Italian suit. He was laughing, checking his gold watch, the sun catching the diamonds on the bezel. "Julian," Nia called out, her voice cracking over the engine noise. She waved the envelope. "Baby, wait. I have news." Julian turned. His smile didn't just fade. It vanished like a light switch had been flipped off. He didn't look happy. He looked annoyed, like someone had just spilled cheap coffee on his expensive leather seats. He said something to the person inside the plane, then walked down the steps toward her, his face hard as stone. "Nia? What on earth are you doing here?" he snapped, stopping 5 feet away from her. He didn't hug her. He didn't touch her belly. He looked around nervously, as if her presence was dirtying the air. I wanted to surprise you," Nia stammered, her smile faltering. She held up the envelope. "The doctor called. It's a boy, Julian. We're having a son. I wanted to tell you before you left for Monaco." Julian let out a short, cold laugh. He shook his head, looking down at her swollen ankles and her worn-out sandals. "A son? Right. Look at you, Nia. You're a mess. You're dripping sweat. You look like help." "I'm your wife," Nia whispered, the heat suddenly feeling very oppressive. "I'm carrying your child. Why are you looking at me like that?" Before Julian could answer, a clicking sound came from the metal stairs. Click-clack, click-clack. High heels. Expensive ones. "Babe, what's taking so long? The pilot says the champagne is getting warm." Nia froze. A woman stepped out of the plane cabin. She was white, tall, blonde, and painfully thin. She wore a white silk jumpsuit that cost more than Nia's entire life savings. She held a crystal flute of bubbly liquid, looking down at Nia like she was a bug on a windshield. "Tiffany." Nia breathed out. She knew her. Tiffany was the PR consultant Julian had hired 6 months ago to fix the company's image. Tiffany took a sip of her drink, smirking. "Oh wow. Is this her? In person? Julian, you didn't tell me she was this large." "Go back inside, Tiff," Julian said, but his voice wasn't angry. It was soft. "I'll handle the trash." Trash. The word hung in the hot air. Nia felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "Trash? Julian, I built that company with you. I worked double shifts at the diner so you could buy servers. I coded the back end of the app while you slept. And that's exactly why we're done," Julian said, his voice dropping to a cruel hiss. "You were good for the garage, Nia. But I'm a billionaire now. I'm on the cover of Fortune. I need a wife who fits the part. Someone who looks good on a yacht. Someone who speaks French and knows which fork to use. You're just dead weight." "But I'm pregnant," Nia sobbed, tears finally spilling over. "We have a family." "Correction," Julian sneered. You have a baby. My lawyers sent the papers this morning. You get the old apartment and $5,000. Consider it a severance pay. Severance pay? Nia screamed, stepping forward. I am your wife, not your employee. Security! Julian yelled, not even looking at her anymore. He turned his back. Remove her from the tarmac. She's trespassing. Two burly guards rushed over. One of them grabbed Nia's arm. Let me go, she cried, struggling. Julian, don't do this. Not like this. Tiffany laughed from the top of the stairs. Bye, sweetie. Don't worry, we'll name the boat after you. If this story is making your blood boil already, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button right now, because you won't believe how hard karma is about to hit them. Do it now before we see what happens next. Julian walked up the stairs, grabbed Tiffany by the waist and kissed her. Right there, in front of his crying pregnant wife. They disappeared into the cool air-conditioned cabin. The heavy door hissed shut and locked with a final thud. The guards dragged Nia toward the chain-link fence. They weren't gentle. Please, I need to sit down, Nia gasped, feeling a sharp pain in her side. My baby. Out of the gate, ma'am, the guard grunted, pushing her through the pedestrian exit. He slammed the metal gate in her face and locked it. Nia stumbled. Her sandal strap broke, and she fell hard onto the dusty gravel of the roadside. Her hands scraped against the stones. She watched through the fence as the private jet taxied down the runway, picked up speed, and roared into the blue sky, taking the father of her child and the life she thought she had away with it. She was alone. No car. No money. Phone battery at 4%. Miles away from the city on a deserted access road. The heat was unbearable. God, please, she whispered, clutching her belly. Not here. Not now. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. She sat there in the dust, watching the heat waves rise off the asphalt. A few cars zoomed past, luxury sedans, airport staff, but no one stopped. To them, she was just a homeless woman sitting in the dirt. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Her vision started to blur. She was dehydrated and in shock. She closed her eyes, preparing for the end. Vrrrr. A low, powerful hum vibrated the ground beneath her. It didn't sound like a normal car. It sounded like a beast. Nia opened her eyes to mere slits. A shadow fell over her, blocking out the harsh sun. A car had pulled up. But not just any car. It was a matte black Maybach limousine, long and imposing, with flags on the fender. Behind it were two black SUVs with tinted windows. It looked like a presidential motorcade. The back door of the Maybach didn't just open. It glided outward. A polished black leather shoe stepped onto the dirt. Then a cane with a silver lion's head handle. A man stepped out. He was older, maybe in his 60s, but he stood tall and powerful. He was white, with silver hair slicked back and a tailored charcoal suit that cost more than the jet Julian just flew away in. He wore dark sunglasses, but as he looked down at Nia, he took them off. His eyes were piercing blue, sharp but not cruel. He didn't look at her with pity. He looked at her with recognition. He signaled to his bodyguards, who immediately rushed forward with umbrellas to shade her from the sun and bottles of cold Fijian water. Easy now, the man said, his voice deep and gravelly like a rumble of thunder. He extended a hand to her. A hand with a ring that bore a crest Nia had seen on the news, the crest of the Sterling family, the family that owned half the city. Mr. Sterling. Nia whispered, her throat dry as sandpaper. Everyone knew Arthur Sterling. He was the billionaire that other billionaires were afraid of. You have a good memory, Arthur said, a small smile playing on his lips. And I have one too. You're Nia, aren't you? The girl who found the error in my banking software 5 years ago. The one who saved me $300 million. Nia blinked confused. I just sent an email to support. I didn't think anyone read it. I read everything, Arthur said. He looked at the dust on her dress, then at the sky where Julian's jet had just left a trail of white smoke. And I saw what just happened. That man. He made a very expensive mistake today. Nia looked down at her broken sandal. He left me. He said I didn't fit his image. Arthur laughed, but it was a dark, terrifying sound. Image is for people who have to pretend they are rich. Power is silent. He leaned in closer. Get in the car, Nia. The world thinks you are trash today. But by tomorrow, I'm going to make sure you own the very ground that plane landed on. Nia hesitated. Why? Why would you help me? Arthur's face softened just for a second. Because my daughter died in childbirth 20 years ago. Her husband left her too. I couldn't save her. He gripped his cane tighter. But I'll be damned if I let history repeat itself. Get in. We have a lot of work to do. As Nia took his hand and was helped into the plush leather interior of the Maybach, a car that smelled of mahogany and old money, she realized something. She wasn't just being rescued. She was being recruited. The door closed, shutting out the heat, the dust, and the pain. Where to, sir? The driver asked. Arthur looked at Nia. To the headquarters. Call the board. Tell them we are acquiring a new tech company. And tell them the new CEO is coming to sign the papers. Nia's eyes went wide. This is just the beginning. The real revenge hasn't even started yet. If you are loving this story, type continue in the comments. 5 years had passed since the dust of the tarmac settled, but for Julian time hadn't healed anything. It had only rotted the foundation of his company. He sat in his glass-walled office, the one that used to feature on magazine covers, rubbing his temples. The silence in the room was deafening. His phone wasn't ringing. It used to ring every 3 seconds. Now the only sound was the clicking of Tiffany's long acrylic nails on her phone screen from the couch across the room. Can you stop that? Julian snapped, swiveling his chair around. I'm trying to figure out how to pay the server costs for next month. Tiffany didn't even look up. She popped a piece of gum. Relax, babe. Just sell another one of those patent things. Or fire some more nerds. By the way, I need the black card. My stylist found this vintage Birkin in Paris and it's a steal at $40,000. $40,000? Julian stood up, his face flushing red. Tiffany, the stock is down 60%. The algorithm, the one Nia wrote, is breaking. The engineers I hired can't fix it because they don't understand her code. We are bleeding money. Tiffany rolled her eyes, finally looking at him. God, you're so boring when you're poor. Why do you keep bringing up her name? She's probably waiting tables in a diner somewhere, feeding that brat of hers leftovers. Julian slammed his hand on the desk. That brat is my son. And that waitress was the only reason this company worked. You were supposed to be the image upgrade, Tiffany. But all you've done is upgrade your closet while my empire burns. Don't talk to me like that. Tiffany stood up, throwing a pillow at him. I'm the face of this brand. The brand is toxic. Julian yelled back. We just lost the contract with Vance Global. Do you know who acquired them? Some shell company called Phoenix Holdings. They've been buying up every tech firm in the city for the last 5 years. They are eating us alive, Tiffany. And I have a meeting with their CEO tonight at the gala. If I don't convince them to partner with us, we are bankrupt by Monday. Tiffany huffed and checked her reflection in the window. Fine. I'll wear the red dress. But if this CEO is some old boring guy, I'm leaving early. Julian ignored her. He stared out the window at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Phoenix Holdings was plotting his demise. He fixed his tie, trying to channel the arrogance he had 5 years ago, but it was gone. He was a king without a castle and he was terrified. Across the city, in a penthouse that sat so high up it felt like it was floating in the clouds, the atmosphere was very different. Mom! Mommy, look! A 5-year-old boy with curly hair and bright, intelligent eyes ran into the room holding a tablet. He was wearing a miniature bespoke suit that matched the one Arthur Sterling was wearing as he sat in the oversized armchair by the fireplace. "Slow down, Leo," Nia said, walking into the room. If Julian could see her now, he wouldn't recognize her. The woman who had worn a cotton dress and broken sandals was gone. Nia moved with the grace of a panther. She wore a tailored white pantsuit that screamed power. Her hair was styled in sleek, luxurious waves, and her skin glowed with the kind of health that only peace and billions of dollars can buy. She didn't look like help. She looked like the boss. "Grandpa Arthur showed me the stock charts," Leo chirped, climbing onto the arm of Arthur's chair. "The blue line is going up. That means we're winning, right?" Arthur chuckled, the sound deep and warm. He patted Leo's head. "That's right, little lion. We are winning. Your mother has a very sharp sword." Nia smiled, leaning down to kiss Arthur on the cheek. Over the last 5 years, Arthur hadn't just been a savior. He had been a father, a mentor, and the grandfather her son deserved. He had taught her that revenge wasn't about screaming. It was about succeeding so hard that your enemies choked on your dust. "Are you ready for tonight, Nia?" Arthur asked, his blue eyes serious. "The gala. He will be there." Nia walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window. She looked out at the same skyline Julian was watching, but from a much higher vantage point. "I'm ready. For 5 years I've stayed in the shadows. I built Phoenix Holdings quietly. I let him think it was just bad luck that his clients were leaving. Tonight I turn the lights on." "He's desperate," Arthur warned. "Desperate men are dangerous." "He's not dangerous, Arthur," Nia said, turning around. Her eyes were cold, devoid of the love she once held for Julian. "He's just expensive. And I'm about to write him a check he can't cash." "Can I come?" Leo asked, swinging his legs. "I want to see the bad man." Nia's face softened as she looked at her son, Julian's son, though Julian had never met him. "Not tonight, baby. Tonight is business. But don't worry. You'll own everything he has by the time you're 18. Arthur stood up, leaning on his cane. "The car is ready. The Rolls-Royce this time. The Phantom. It sends a message." "What message?" Leo asked. Arthur winked. "That the Queen has arrived. If you are rooting for Nia to absolutely destroy Julian at this gala, smash that like button right now. Let's get this video to 50,000 likes for the Queen." The Metropolitan Museum had been transformed into a playground for the elite. Champagne flowed like water, and the air smelled of expensive perfume and ambition. But when Julian and Tiffany arrived, they felt the shift in the room immediately. 5 years ago, people would have rushed to shake Julian's hand. Now they turned their backs. They whispered, "Look, it's the Titanic captain," one investor muttered loud enough for Julian to hear. "I heard his stock is trading lower than a hot dog stand." Julian grit his teeth, gripping Tiffany's arm tighter. "Smile," he hissed. "We need to find the CEO of Phoenix Holdings. They said he or she would be making a grand entrance at 8 o'clock. "My feet hurt," Tiffany whined, stumbling slightly in her Louboutins. "And everyone is staring at my dress. Is it too much?" It was too much. In a sea of elegant black and navy, Tiffany was wearing a bright red, sequined gown with a slit that went too high. She looked desperate for attention. "Just shut up and hold this drink," Julian muttered. Suddenly, the lights in the massive hall dimmed. A spotlight hit the top of the grand staircase. The room went silent. A voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of the evening and the new majority shareholder of, well, almost everything. The CEO of Phoenix Holdings." Julian held his breath. This was it. The person who could save him. Arthur Sterling stepped out first. The crowd gasped. Arthur Sterling had been in retirement for a decade. Why was he here? But then Arthur stopped. He turned back and extended his hand. A woman stepped into the light. The breath left Julian's lungs in a painful whoosh. He dropped his champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing through the silent room. But he didn't even hear it. It was Nia, but not the Nia he remembered. She was draped in a gown made of shimmering gold silk that looked like liquid metal. She wore a necklace of black diamonds that probably cost more than Julian's entire failing company. She stood tall, her chin raised, looking down at the crowd with eyes that were sharp, intelligent, and completely merciless. "No," Julian whispered, his knees shaking. That's not possible." Tiffany squinted, confused. "Who is that? She looks familiar. Wait, is that the maid?" Nia began to descend the stairs, her hand resting lightly on Arthur's arm. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea. Cameras flashed, blinding and rapid. Julian felt like the room was spinning. The woman he had discarded on a tarmac. The woman he called trash. She was Phoenix Holdings? She was the one who had been systematically destroying him for 5 years? Nia reached the bottom of the stairs. She didn't look around the room frantically like Julian did. She knew exactly where he was. She walked straight toward him. The crowd sensed the tension. They formed a circle, silent and hungry for drama. Julian tried to compose himself. He smoothed his suit, but his hands were trembling. "Nia," he choked out, his voice cracking. You look." Nia stopped 3 feet away from him, the same distance he had stood from her on the tarmac. "Mr. Julian," she said, her voice smooth and cool as ice. She didn't call him Julian. She called him by his last name like a stranger. "I received your request for a bailout meeting. I thought we could save time and have it right here." "Bailout?" Tiffany screeched, stepping forward. "We don't need a bailout from you. Who do you think you are?" Arthur Sterling stepped forward, tapping his cane on the floor. One sharp tap. It silenced Tiffany instantly. "She is the woman who owns your debt, young lady. And if she snaps her fingers, the bank forecloses on your little Barbie dream house by morning." Tiffany went pale. She looked from Arthur to Nia, then to Julian. "Julian? Do something." Julian couldn't move. He stared at Nia, seeing the ghost of the wife he betrayed, but covered in the armor of a warrior. "Nia," Julian pleaded, switching to his charming voice, though it sounded pathetic now. "Baby, look, mistakes were made. I was stressed. The company. The pressure. I never meant to hurt you. We can fix this. We were a team, remember? You and me against the world." He reached out to touch her arm. "Don't," Nia said. She didn't yell. She didn't step back. She just spoke with such absolute authority that Julian's hand froze in midair. "We were a team," Nia corrected him. "But you fired me. Remember? You said I didn't fit the image." She took a step closer, towering over him in her heels. "So tell me, Julian, do I fit the image now?" She gestured to the room, to the billions of dollars represented in the crowd, all watching her with respect. Julian swallowed hard. "Nia, please. I have nothing left. The investors are pulling out. If you don't buy the company, I will go to jail for fraud. I borrowed money I couldn't pay back." Nia tilted her head. "I know. I bought the loan." Julian's eyes widened in horror. You own my debt?" "I own everything, Julian," Nia said, her voice dropping to a whisper that only he and Tiffany could hear. "I own the building we are standing in. I own the tarmac where you left me. And as of this morning, I own the majority share of your company. You can't." Julian stammered, I already did. Nia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You have two options. Option A, you sign over the remaining shares to me right now, walk out of here and start over from zero. Option B, I let the auditors in tomorrow morning. And given what I know about your accounting, you'll be in prison before lunch. The silence stretched. The tension was unbearable. Tiffany grabbed Julian's arm. Julian, do something. Tell her she's crazy. Julian looked at Tiffany, the woman who had drained his bank account and offered him nothing but headaches. Then he looked at Nia, the woman who had built him, loved him, and who was now standing there like a goddess of vengeance. He realized then truly what he had lost. Julian started, tears forming in his eyes. Not tears of sorrow but tears of defeat. I'll sign. Good choice, Nia said. She snapped her fingers. A lawyer materialized from the crowd. It was one of the men who had guarded her in the car 5 years ago. He handed Julian a clipboard and a pen. Sign it, Nia commanded. On the dotted line. And Julian. He looked up, pen hovering over the paper that would end his career. Make sure you use the right fork. Julian's hand shook so violently that the signature on the document looked like a seismograph of an earthquake. He dropped the pen. It rolled across the table and fell onto the floor with a hollow clatter, sealing his fate. He had just signed away his company, his patents, and his legacy for pennies on the dollar to the woman he had discarded like trash. Nia picked up the clipboard. She didn't gloat. She didn't laugh. She simply checked the signature, nodded to the lawyer and handed it off. Transaction complete, she said, her voice devoid of any warmth. You are free to go, Julian. Security will escort you out. You have 24 hours to vacate the CEO suite. Anything left behind will be donated to charity. Tiffany, who had been watching in stunned silence, suddenly snapped out of her trance. Her eyes darted from the signed paper to Julian's pale, sweating face. She did the math in her head instantly. No company. No stock options. No expense account. Wait a minute, Tiffany screeched, her voice shrill enough to shatter glass. She stepped away from Julian as if he had a contagious disease. You signed it? You actually gave it all away? You're broke. Julian looked up at her, his eyes pleading. Tiff, baby, we can start over. I have ideas. We can go to my parents' cabin upstate and… Cabin? Tiffany laughed, a cruel, ugly sound. I don't do cabins, Julian. I do Cabo. I do penthouses. You told me you were a tech mogul, not a loser with a mountain shack. Tiffany, please, Julian whispered, reaching for her hand. The crowd was watching, phones out, recording every second of his humiliation. I did this for us. To keep us out of jail. You did this because you're weak, Tiffany spat. She snatched her arm away. I am not going down with your sinking ship. We are done. She turned to Nia, flashing a bright, fake smile, flipping her hair over her shoulder. Nia, girl. Wow, I always told Julian he was making a mistake. I actually tried to stop him that day on the tarmac. I've always admired you. Maybe you need a PR consultant for Phoenix Holdings? I have great ideas for your brand. The audacity of the woman made the entire room gasp. Even the stoic bodyguards looked disgusted. Nia looked at Tiffany. She didn't look angry. She looked at her the way a lion looks at a buzzing fly. Tiffany, was it? Nia asked, stepping closer. You want a job? Tiffany nodded eagerly, thinking she had found a new lifeline. Yes. I can help you rebrand. I know all the trends. I do have a position open, Nia said thoughtfully. She pointed a manicured finger toward the exit. My cleaning crew is short-staffed. The toilets in the lobby are backed up. Grab a mop on your way out. The crowd erupted in laughter. Actual raucous laughter. Tiffany's face turned a deep shade of crimson. She looked around, realizing she was the punchline. You witch. Tiffany screamed. She lunged at Nia, her nails raised. But she never made it. Arthur Sterling didn't even flinch. He simply raised 2 fingers. 2 massive security guards intercepted Tiffany in midair, grabbing her by the arms. Her feet dangled off the ground as she kicked and screamed, her expensive dress riding up, her dignity completely gone. "Get off me!" she shrieked as they dragged her toward the exit. "Do you know who I am?" "Nobody," Arthur said calmly, his voice carrying over the noise. "You are nobody." As the doors slammed shut behind the screaming mistress, a heavy silence fell over the room. Julian stood alone in the center of the circle. No girlfriend. No company. No dignity. "Nia," he rasped. "I'm sorry. Okay. Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry I left you. I was young. I was stupid. But we have a child, don't we? You said it was a boy. Let me see him. I have a right to see my son." Nia's expression darkened. This was the moment she had been protecting Leo from. "You waived your rights when you left us to die in the heat," she said. "You don't get to claim him now just because you need a prop for your redemption arc." "He's my blood," Julian shouted, desperation making him bold. "I am his father. He needs me." "He has a father," a deep voice rumbled from behind Nia. Arthur Sterling stepped aside. From behind the heavy velvet curtains of the VIP section, a little boy walked out. Leo. He looked like a prince. He walked straight up to Nia and took her hand, looking at Julian with confused, innocent eyes. Julian stared. The boy had his nose. His chin. It was undeniable. "Leo," Julian breathed, dropping to his knees so he was eye level with the child. "Hey buddy. You don't know me, but I'm your dad. I'm the one who made you." Leo tilted his head. He didn't smile. He didn't run into Julian's arms. He looked up at Nia. "Mommy? Is this the man who made you cry?" Nia squeezed Leo's hand. "Yes, baby. This is him." Leo looked back at Julian, his little face scrunching up in judgment. "You look sad," Leo said. "I am sad, Leo," Julian said, tears streaming down his face. "Because I missed you. But I'm back now. We can be a family. You, me, and Mommy. We can go play catch. Do you like baseball?" Leo took a step back, closer to Arthur. He reached up and grabbed Arthur's hand. "I like baseball," Leo said clearly. "But I play it with my grandpa, Arthur. And my daddy." Julian blinked. "Daddy?" "No, Leo, I'm your daddy." "No," Leo said firmly. He pointed a small finger at Julian. "You are just a stranger. My daddy is the one who reads me stories. My daddy is the one who was there when I had the flu. My daddy is him." Leo pointed to a man who had been standing quietly in the shadows behind Arthur. The man stepped forward. It was David, the head of security who had held the umbrella for Nia 5 years ago. Over the years, he had become her rock, her partner, and the man who loved her son as his own. He wasn't a billionaire. He was a protector. And to Leo he was everything. David placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. "You doing okay, little man?" "I'm okay, Dad," Leo said, leaning into him. The word dad hit Julian harder than bankruptcy ever could. It was a physical blow. He collapsed back onto his heels, defeated. He realized then that money could be earned back, companies could be rebuilt, but time? Trust? Love? He had spent those currencies long ago, and his account was overdrawn. "Get him out of here," Nia said softly. She didn't need to shout. The war was over. She had won. Security guards hoisted Julian up by his armpits. He didn't fight them. He was a hollow shell of a man. As they dragged him away, he looked back one last time. He saw Nia, radiant and strong. He saw Arthur, the titan of industry. He saw David, the man who had taken his place. And he saw his son, looking at him with nothing but indifference. "Nia." Julian wailed one last time before the doors swallowed him. Nia! The doors shut. The music swelled back up. A triumphant, soaring orchestral piece. Nia let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for 5 years. Arthur put a hand on her shoulder. You did good, kid, he said. I didn't do it alone, Nia smiled, looking at David and Leo. Mommy, can we go home now? Leo asked, tugging on her dress. I want pizza. This party is boring. Nia laughed, a genuine, happy sound that filled the room. Yes, baby. Let's go home. They walked out of the gala. Not through the back door but through the front. The paparazzi were waiting. As Nia stepped out into the cool night air, the flashes went off like fireworks. But this time there was no rain. No mud. No tears. A fleet of cars waited. The Rolls-Royce door was held open by a chauffeur. Across the street, sitting on the curb, was a man in a rumpled suit, holding a broken pen. Julian looked up as Nia approached the car. He looked pathetic, small, and utterly alone. Nia paused before getting in. She looked at him across the street. She didn't say a word. She just adjusted her coat, lifted her chin, and got into the car. David got in beside her. Leo hopped in the middle. Arthur took the front seat. As the car pulled away, gliding smoothly into the traffic of the city she now owned, Nia looked out the rear window. She saw Julian put his head in his hands and weep. She turned back to her family. So, she said, smiling at Leo. Pepperoni or cheese? Pepperoni. Leo cheered. The car drove off into the city lights, leaving the darkness behind forever. The end. If you enjoyed this story and want to claim this kind of victory in your own life, type "I am a queen" in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. We post new revenge stories every single day. See you in the next video.